Hi, everybody. This is SAAD. In my forthcoming book, I discuss a new and powerful and pervasive religion, which I refer to as the DI religion, the diversity, inclusion, and equity religion. And lo and behold, earlier today, I received an email, one of innumerable emails from prospective professors, actual professors, prospective graduate students, actual graduate students, all of whom can't seem to make sense of what is unfolding in universities. I did warn you for many years. So the title of this email is Die Religion and NSERC. NSERC is the National Sciences and Engineering Research Council. This is the granting agency for the natural sciences and engineering in Canada, similar to, say, the National Science Foundation in the US. So I'm not going to identify who the person is, so I'll skip those parts. Dear Dr. Saad, my name is so-and-so, and I'm a graduate student studying so-and-so at university somewhere in Canada. I've been following your work for about a year now and have learned a lot in a variety of subjects from your content. So for that, I thank you. I know you're busy, so I will try to keep this short. I find your insights on evolutionary psychology the most interesting, but I find your insights on the climate of university campuses the most important. During my BSc in biology, I was ignorant of all these new ideas regarding political correctness, but since I started my master's program, I've become friends with some folks in the arts and sociology departments. I'm sorry to hear that. These were the people who introduced me to a variety of topics like white male privilege, cultural appropriation, intersectionality, and biological determinism. That last one is the most baffling to me. Of course it is, because you studied biology. I was sent links to videos and articles by these friends so I could get some insight into their thought process. I kept digging into the topics, which caused me to stumble into your content. I have to say, your logic makes far more sense to me than those on the other side of the debate. Well, thank you. I'm not sure that I wish to be compared with those folks, but I appreciate your kind words. It's been interesting to follow this debate, but it was never something that affected my life, so I never really worried about it that much. That is, until I came across this new Dimensions program related to the NSERC. Here are a couple of links if you haven't already seen. I was aware of these programs, and I will post the links in the description section of the video. I find this concerning because, like you, I believe in equal opportunity and not equal outcome. What a Nazi. As a young scientist, I'm trying to decide if I want to stay involved in academia. However, as a fortunate straight white man, it seems as though this Dimensions program is going to make it much more difficult for me to stay in academia. Not only because it will be tougher for me to get a job or funding, but because I know I will always voice my actual opinions about these topics. If tenured professors are losing their jobs over their opinions, I don't think I have much of a chance. On the other hand, I don't know that it will be much better in the private sector. Again, I know you are busy, but if you're looking for a topic to talk about on the SAAD Truth, not that there's any shortage in content, I would really love to hear your opinion about this Dimensions program. Respectfully yours, and he gives his name. Well, I have talked about these issues in the past, but I'm glad that you wrote me, and I'm glad to address this matter again. Now imagine here's a prospective scientist who is saying, look, there's no room for me. And if I were to tell you that he is one of innumerable such people who are writing to me. So the diversity and inclusion and equity program that is meant to foster such a welcoming environment apparently is not so welcoming, because I am living proof of the number of people who write to me saying, hey, I'm getting out of academia. But in any case, let me just read you some of the content from the links that I'm going to be sharing with you. So here is from the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada. This is an announcement, a press release. Government of Canada makes bold moves to increase equity, diversity, and inclusion in research. New pilot program, charter, and grants will help universities and colleges make the research community as diverse as Canada. So again, the metrics here is diversity of sexual orientation, diversity of skin color, diversity of gender identity, diversity of race and religion and historical background. All of the measures of diversity that should be completely and utterly irrelevant if you are an academic The only one that should matter is intellectual diversity. That one we don't talk about. But all the metrics, the irrelevant metrics of diversity, that's what we are now pushing. Evidence clearly shows that increasing equity, diversity, and inclusion, EDI, I prefer the acronym DI, in research environments enhances excellence, innovation, and creativity. EDI policies and practices strengthen the research community as well as the quality, social relevance, outcomes, and impacts of research. Really? In the natural sciences, in engineering, your identity, whether you identify as male or female, what your sexual orientation, who you choose to love, the skin color, the skin hue that you possess, that helps inform your research outlook. That's why Canada is taking action to transform the research culture by removing systemic barriers in the academic research community. Today, the Honourable Kirsty Duncan, Minister of Science and Sport, launched Dimensions, Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Canada, a pilot program inspired by the United Kingdom's internationally recognized Athena Swan program. Dimensions aims to address systemic barriers, particularly those experienced by members of underrepresented or disadvantaged groups, including but not limited to women, Indigenous people, persons with disabilities, members of visible minority, racialized groups, and members of LGBTQ2+ communities. Minister Duncan also unveiled the Dimensions Charter, which is available to all research disciplines and fields of study at all post-secondary institutions, universities, colleges, CEGEPs, and polytechnics. Institutions that endorse the Dimension Charter commit to embed EDI principles in their policies, practices, action plans, and culture. As well, Minister Duncan announced an investment of $5.3 million in funding under the EDI Institutional Capacity Building Grant Program to help institutions advance their EDI goals. This first round of the grant program was open to small universities and colleges to support their efforts to create an inclusive climate reflecting Canada's diversity in their institutions. Quotes. These are quotes that they're providing in support of the program. Today's launch of Dimensions, along with new grants and a robust charter, will help remove systemic barriers and improve access for everyone to equal opportunities, treatment, and recognition in research. This truly is a critical and transformational step to Canadian post-secondary institutions. We know that when we bring together diverse points of view, our health, environment, communities, and economy can thrive. The Honourable Kirsty Duncan, Minister of Science and Sport. You're absolutely right that diverse point of views matter. Those diverse point of views are not encoded in my sexual orientation. They're not encoded in my skin hue. They're not encoded in my religious heritage. It's an epistemological issue, right? Some people might choose experiments to conduct their research. Others might choose survey-based approaches. Therefore, by using methodological pluralism, using multiple methods, we might arrive at some form of convergent evidence regarding a particular phenomenon. So, in this case, methodological diversity is something to be encouraged. But there is no clear evidence that having all of this equity and diversity and so on, when it comes to studying mathematics or physics or chemistry or neuroscience or psychology or consumer psychology or endless other fields of human knowledge, whether my sexual orientation or my skin hue or my ethnicity or my race or my gender identity, whether that enriches my research program. The scientific method is what liberates us from our personal identities, as I explained in my book. That's what makes it the most liberating and democratic epistemology that the world has ever known. It's precisely because we don't have to rely on our personal identities that we can tackle phenomena that occur in the real world using a common epistemology that makes it so powerful. It is the scientific method, void of identity politics, that allowed us to land on the moon. This is simply astonishing. By the way, you want to know what happened to my recent application to the government for a research grant? I guess there are some folks that are not very appreciative of my being outspoken. So to those who think that there are no costs for speaking out because, you're tenured, you couldn't be any more wrong. When I have to look over my shoulder because I don't know if somebody's going to whack me, tenure doesn't protect me from that. When I don't get a research grant or a chaired professorship because I am outspoken, tenure doesn't protect me from that. So do your part, speak out. What makes academia so powerful, so liberating, so enriching is that it allows us to all come into the arena on equal footing. Now, if there are true systemic barriers, as there has been throughout history, then we should eradicate those. But for example, when it comes to the argument that women need further help in universities because they are being discriminated against, well, the data is so profoundly contrary to that narrative that it's frankly just intellectual fraudulent to keep pushing that victimhood narrative. In Canada, women greatly outnumber men in Canadian universities. They outnumber them in medical schools. They outnumber in veterinary schools. If I'm not mistaken, they might also be outnumbering them now in law schools. In the US, I've already shared with you the data. Across 5 races and 4 educational attainment levels, associate's degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, and doctoral degrees, meaning there are 20 possible cells, women outnumber men in every single cell. What data would you need to pause and say we could no longer push the argument that we need special programs for women? The dean of my school is a woman. The associate dean of research at my school is a woman. The incoming chair might be a woman. Now that's great. That's wonderful. And they are wonderful colleagues who deserve the positions that they've achieved. Not because they're women, because hopefully it's because of meritorious factors. So again, I understand that there is a noble cause that is at the root of this die religion, as is the case in many religions. Regrettably, it is contrary to every edict that defines a society that is enlightened, that is truly liberal, that is classically liberal, that is founded on the principles of individual dignity. And if people don't push back against this, we will sink into a further abyss of collective, cancerous, tribal mindsets. Get ready for my book. I'm reaching the conclusion of the first draft. It's going to ruffle a lot of feathers. Cheers, everybody.